Wow. 7 months ago, I'm starting this crazy idea and say, you know, everything's about to change. Everybody can feel something changing, right? And it was June, and just a few months before that, I was at NAB. For anyone not familiar with NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, this is this amazing show where you have cinema and television and radio and music and everything in between. And all these people get together and show all the best tools. Everybody's showing off the best tools. And I'm standing there and I'm looking around and I feel like it kind of feels like every other NAB. And that troubled me because every time I open up my phone and I look at the news in our industry, I'm seeing something that isn't mirrored in the technology space that we're using every single day. All the tools that we use every day are not mirroring. And that story is this idea of AI and machine learning. And we're talking about it, we're seeing it, we're reading about it, we're hearing about it, we're discussing it, we're debating it, we're scared of it, we support it, we love it, we hate it, we're doing all these things. And now I'm looking at this landscape of technology leadership and I just can't find it. And I'm like, is it just me? What's going on? So 7 months ago, I quit my job and I said, I'm going to start looking for it. And like, I didn't know what I was signing up for. And this is such an amazing time to be together. We thank you for everybody that's here in the room. Thank you for everybody that's joining us on YouTube, because this is the start of something. And I think everybody understands that something's changing dramatically. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but this is a journey. And our community deserves better tools that are going to help us. And many of you are passionate about workflow, because I know most of you, and I know how passionate you are about workflow. And you know how passionate I am about workflow. And while we have made progress, I feel we just have not closed the gap. And there is got to be something better. You know, and it's like some see AI as a threat. We talked about that, and we've been concerned about that. In fact, there's been people sort of picketing about AI. They certainly see it as a threat. And a lot of people see the stories like this that come out, and they really think about it and be like, this isn't really good. When I told some people that I was going to start an AI company in Hollywood, a couple of my friends got really mad. How dare you, Michael, is what they told me. I had to go out to dinner and be like, we got to save our friendship if you think I'm that bad. And I'm like, well, am I about to step in something I'm going to regret? And so I wanted to talk that out with people. But then other people see it as an opportunity. And they see all this stuff about ML and AI, and they're like, you know what? This is a real great opportunity. And I see the glass half full. And I know most of you in the room, most of you watching are probably the glass half full personalities. And that's great. While skeptics are welcome, I'm looking for people who are unafraid to try something new, to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we're going to show some stuff to that. But there's good news and bad news to this, because the good news is if you see the opportunity and potential in AI in workflow, then you're going to get it. It's coming like an avalanche. But if you're skeptical and you're slow and you are a late adopter and you wait till everything becomes a rock solid standard, I got news from you. It's an avalanche for you too. So you don't really have a choice other than to try another industry that somehow AI doesn't infiltrate. And good luck with that. So this is an opportunity for us to think about how we can take control of this situation. But the biggest problem that I find with AI is that as people talk about it and prepare, there's these trust issues with it. And I understand that. That's totally legitimate. And I'm concerned. I have trust issues with AI myself, where the information comes from, how it's gathered, what you're going to do with it, what people are going to do to my own stuff with it. All of those are fair factors. And I was actually talking to someone I admire and respect, an actress named Haley Royal, and we were talking, and I said, I got these trust issues, and what do you think I should do? And she told me a phrase that I had never heard before. And she said, you need to use build in public. And build in public is a technique that I wasn't familiar with. And Haley explained to me that there are companies that actually build themselves from scratch and they document the whole thing and put it out there. And that way you have established a common ground. You're able to communicate. You're able to be a little bit less defensive, and you're able to just build some of that trust. And I am so suspicious of companies that are building AI. I don't want it shoved down my throat. I don't want it to be forced upon me. And I'm really, really concerned that that could happen. And I think there's actual pictures and scenarios where that's actually starting to happen. And so we want to do it a little differently. And so I took Haley's advice and said, well, let's build in public. So we started a YouTube channel. I've never done that. I'm still dubious and suspicious about that whole experience, but we're trying. And what we started doing is rolling cameras in my house when we started this business. We started it, and I recorded a video my first day that I quit my job in tears because I immediately regretted my decision of resigning. And I was like, what am I getting into? And I was legitimately terrified. And thankfully, my brother, who many of you know, if not, you'll meet him in a second, he quit his job too. And some of his former colleagues are here too. And it was very scary. But the funny thing about building in public is we really wanted to chronicle everything that we're learning. We didn't even know. There's no script to this. There's no plan. This isn't even a reality show, because most reality shows still have a plan, right? And this one had no plan, no idea where we're going. And what we ended up doing, I think, is kind of doing ourselves a disservice, which we're going to continue to do, because we're risking exposure by showing everybody our roadmap. And I tell everybody what we're going to build, when we're going to build it, before it even exists. And I've even heard through the grapevine, people like, oh, we know what Michael's going to do because he just put it on YouTube. So it's easier to copy. And we're putting it at risk, our competitive advantage and our secrets and our trade secrets, but we felt it's worth doing all that to be transparent so that there can be an honesty about what we intend to bring to our community. And so that's why we're doing it that way. So you can, if you haven't watched it, it is a treasure trove of information, and it's funny, it's informational about how we build a company, how you start a business, how you even do cap tables and payroll, and how to hire people, and then how to raise money and even do benefits and things like that. We take people through all that because, one, it's not taught in film school, certainly not enough. Filmmakers know so little about business. You all know that. And those of you that know about business do very well in filmmaking because there's so few of you. And then people don't really know how to start up tech companies. And there's just not a lot of information about that. Certainly the information is scattered. And so we're trying to bring that together. Then we said, okay, now that we've started a business, what are we going to make? And the truth is, we didn't know what Strada was going to be. We didn't know what we were building. We didn't know what problems we were going to try to solve. But we sat down and we just started trying to be with a blue ocean and be like, what is bothering us the most? And that's what got us excited. And we started building an alpha. And today is so exciting because it marks the end of building an alpha, because our alpha is actually turning into a beta. And so this is really exciting that we finally got to this place. Yeah. But the point of all this transparency, all this talk about being open and sincere and honest, it's not for AI's sake. That's not why we're talking about this. I'm really here to fix the real problem. And the real problem is the real problem that we have had for decades. I think my mentors had the same problem, their mentors and bosses had the problem, and their mentors and bosses had the problem. The real problem we've really been dealing with is workflow. And it's still here, this workflow problem. It's the most overused word in the industry, and we still talk about it. We still have meetings about it. We still have to feel like we're starting in kindergarten and work our way up. And do we copy paste a workflow? Do we start from scratch? And it's just still broken. There are areas that have been fixed, but they're not fixed enough. There's areas that have been neglected because they're too hard or too sloppy, or they're just not worth it. And so I actually think, and I love all of you, but I think you guys do workflow wrong. And I've been trying to tell you guys how to do it for so long. And some of you have listened, and I appreciate that. And some of you do parts of it. Some of you disagree. Skeptics welcome. But here's why people do workflow wrong. Because when we think about workflow, we think about the tool sets. We think about what we're going to use to capture, what we shoot on, how we edit, what we're going to do to sync and transcode and color and sound mix and distribute. That's what we're thinking about. These are all the components. And people say, okay, you put these in order and you draw them in a map and you send it out in a PDF, and some are really pretty and some are just boxes. Some have logos and some are handwritten by a third grader. And then you send it out and you say, this is our workflow. But it's not. These things are rigid. They're tools. Tools are not actually that flexible. In fact, if you think about it, if you're a photographer or a sound mixer, a musician or an editor or a colorist or a camera, and you say, what tool do you use? There's only a few choices. Everybody only has like 3 or 4 choices in these tools because they're that rigid. They're hard to change. And that's why this is not workflow. Workflows are not the tools. Workflows are found in the joints. If you think about human anatomy, the bones don't really move. The bones are rigid. They're the structure. And there's only a few of them. But what gives us flexibility is ligaments and joints. And it's those ligaments and joints that allow us to actually connect things together. Smooth or turbulent transitions between all the stages of a production are what actually make a workflow good or bad. People that are really good at workflow, I'll tell you what's special about them. They know how to get assets into something and out of something better than you. And they can predict 2 steps behind and 2 steps ahead where the assets are going to go. Now, a lot of people get that down over time, but there's a lot of opportunity to make that even more flexible and faster and smoother. And we're finally at a place. I mean, digital changed a lot and it accelerated and expedited a lot about workflow, but it didn't solve nearly enough. And all these things that we've been working so hard to solve that are successes in our industry about democratization and accessibility and quality are all true, but we're still struggling for certain tasks. And the losers in this are the people that need creative control to get their vision through. Because if there is a break in workflow, then the creative control is inhibited because it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little less clarity, a little less opportunity, and people give up a day of editing, a half a day of editing, or a day of shooting, or a half a day. You have to cut shots, or you have to cut days, or you have to cut scenes. And we've all been there because of an issue. But the truth is, the joints is what I want to focus on. And the joints is where AI is the ripest for our community. And that's actually how we named the company. Strada is Italian for street. And when I think of workflow, I think about a journey. I think about where we start in pre-production and ideas, and then production and acquisition, and then through post, and then distribution and exhibition. And an asset and a file and a story goes through all those elements of a journey. And that's where the name Strada comes from. That we go on a street, we go on a journey together to get our stuff there. And so I'm really, really excited to show you some stuff that is insanely new. Yes, Strada is very new. 7 months, 7 days a week, 90 hours a week. The reason we're bleeding to do this, because if we don't move fast, something else is going to start moving in our industry, and it could go in a bad direction, or it could be taken over by groups or companies or tools that aren't going to get it right. And I don't want standards to be deployed and standards to become standards that are inferior. And this is our biggest chance for a reset than we've had in probably 15 years. Because when digital came around, a lot of people were early adopters of that. And the people that moved into digital early and had that foresight on what it was going to do were able to capitalize on that. And other people kind of came in the middle and some followed behind. And this is not just with digital acquisition, but also digital editing 35 years ago. All of those things created these opportunities to kind of reset. We are at another reset. That's good. We, as humans, we like these ideas of chances to I just need a reset. That's why we all kind of celebrate New Year's, because we get to watch a year die and then start a new one. And we kind of get a chance to kind of do that. We like that. It feels good in your mind, right? And so this is that same thing. We get a chance to reset. And now you're going to reset with a whole new paradigm of workflow opportunity. And it really is going to start now. And so our industry is on the cusp of a total new form of creative control. And we're going to show some really advanced stuff today. And our community doesn't want it forced on us. I don't want it forced on me. I want to do this in concert with each other. And that's the opportunity that we have. I actually think Gen AI is overrated. I think there's a lot of news about it. It does some cool stuff. It can look cool, but I think it's overrated. And I think that there's a community of people that are never going to be affected by it. A lot of people are like, man, I can see these pictures. They're really cool. I see it, and I get the sensation that this could take my job. It's not going to take your job. It can't take your job. And here's why. It's a really easy reason. Because the people who actually create things in real life, the photographers, the musicians, the composers, the editors, colorists, cinematographers, camera assistants, assistant editors, directors, producers, everybody that creates something in real life, we do it not just for the result. Some artists won't go to their own gallery showings. A lot of filmmakers won't watch their own movies. Some musicians never listen to the record. Why? Because what they're doing it for is the act of creating. And when you use Gen AI to make something for you, it robs you of the joy you get in creating something. There's a moment for an editor when they see that timeline and it's empty. And they're just like, what? They're like, whoa, what am I going to do, right? There's that feeling. And then you start dropping those shots in here. It starts working, right? There's that moment for a composer where they're noodling on the keyboard, and then that theme starts to sneak itself out, and you get that feeling inside you, right? A photographer that's capturing that moment, and they're like, oh, and they start going through the photos. Gen AI robs you of all of that. And so it has its place, and we're going to use it, and we're going to exploit it for the way we want to control it. But we're not making content for the act of consuming it. We make it because it feels good. And I love making stuff, and I love the pain of being in the middle of that mess. It's so satisfying. And Gen AI doesn't give me any of that, even when it gives me a good result. And that's why Gen AI is for people who want to synthetically create something. That's fine. That sounds good, and there's uses for that. But for people that want to create things in real life, you're going to keep doing that because you feel like it. It's that simple. And now we're going to use AI to help make that process better and faster and more available and just more accessible to everybody, and so that we can keep working on the good stuff and not have to get bogged down with the tough stuff. There's a line in the movie Chariots of Fire where the main character says, when I run fast, I feel the Lord's pleasure. And it's just, that's what it's about, is that sensation of creating and just being in the pain of running. It's just so satisfying. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And you're going to see some really cool stuff. And so in order to get to that, we want to talk a little bit about why we are building this company. And to do that, please welcome my brother and co-founder, Peter Cioni.
Wow. I've only tested this without bodies in the crowd, so this is a little bit different. So wanted to start with the why of Strada. And as Michael mentioned earlier, when we left our jobs, somewhat regrettably, we weren't sure what we're going to do, what we're going to start, what we're going to build. But we wanted to help all types of content creators around the globe. We're here in Hollywood or Hollywood adjacent in the Valley, so obviously we want to support this community. But there's also the YouTube stars, the corporate video teams, photographers, live event teams. So for us, we had to find a way for all these diverse groups to have something unifying, meaning finding a problem that they all face. And so as Michael and I work through this, we know we like analogies and metaphors and graphs. And so we came up with something called the creator Conundrum. And so when we look at all of these types of content creators, how we felt is that some groups, some creators, they lead big teams, and some creators lead small teams. And what's amazing about creators that are part of big teams is they have availability of resources like talent, experience, money, equipment, quality, and time. But there's a cost to big teams for those creators. The larger the team, the further that visionary is from the actual process, from the actual thing happening. They have to delegate. There's layers of management. There's reviews with other groups. And worse, there could be a signal loss. And then you also have the small teams, the creator of the small teams. Now, when you're a small team, you are in absolute control. You know exactly what you want. You may be editing it yourself. You may have the person next to you executing it, but you're probably only 2 degrees of separation from the actual process. So you have a lot of control, but there's a cost to a small team. You're lacking of those resources. So we have these 2 different groups. And so what's really unifying in both of these groups that regardless of the size, the creator has to make compromises. We want to solve that. And so for the big teams with Strada, Strada will help give control back to those creators who are part of big teams. And then for the small teams with Strada, we put more resources in those individuals' hands. So what are we building? Well, what's really funny is that there's some amazing things we talked about, and certainly Michael is an amazing motivational speaker about the future, and we are really excited about the building that we're trying to build. And the taller you build the building, the deeper the foundation has to be. You got to get into the granite in order to be able to build a really tall building. So today, we're really talking about these core foundational tools. So we have vision, we have excitement around what we're going to build, but today we're really focusing on these core fundamental aspects that drive all of this creativity over time. So first thing, we talk about content creation. Content creation usually involves collaborating. Collaborating often means sharing files with each other. And the problem with sharing files is they're typically never in one place, right? We've got different teams in different locations. Certainly with hybrid workforce, you have local drive, you have drive somewhere else. And so what ends up happening is you spend time downloading, uploading, transferring, waiting. And what we see often with our customers is that they're waiting for the file, and the one file they need is not the one that they got. So we want to solve that. And then on top of that, we're seeing a lot today with the prevalence of local stories being shared with a global audience, an audience that speaks literally thousands of languages. And so to tell an authentic story, you may require to learn something from someone who doesn't speak the same language as you. And telling a story today in a language you don't speak is super hard. Now, certainly there are transcription tools today, there are translation tools today, but they tend to live most commonly in the NLE. And so one of the challenges that we see there is that access to that transcription or that translation has so much value across everyone in that content creation process. And also for you editors out there, you already have too much to do. So for us to be dependent on you to do one more thing, that's a problem. Additionally, transcription and translation typically is a deliverable. Most people think about it as at the end of the chain when it's done, we do that process. So imagine if you actually could do the translation and the transcription when you start. What type of capability, what type of creativity, what kind of new ideas can you think of if you have that at the beginning? So we want to solve that. And then all of you, many of you are creative. We're all creative in our own ways, and we all think like creatives. But in order to find the footage you just shot, or in order to find that archival footage that you found somewhere, most people talk in scene and take. Scene one, take one. That's not a creative way to think about media that I'm looking for. It would be so much easier to think about a house, a mailbox, flowers, an emotion, or a prop. So we want to solve that. And then finally, when you create, you have a rough cut, you need a visual effects shot, you're creating dailies, you need to create a file at some point, and then you need to move it. So today, many creatives, they have to rely on someone else on their team. They may have to actually send it to a vendor for them to process, or some creatives choose to pay for and learn really, really complex tools. And with most of the tools that people use themselves, they only can make one file at a time. And so we want to solve that. Michael said earlier, Strada is Italian for street. And so we're on a journey, and just to stress again, we're at mile 1 of a 1,000-mile drive. And what we're showing you today is the very, very beginning. So we are excited to show you what's coming, but we're also hopeful that by you all listening today, you could think about what these fundamental capabilities unlock in your workflow. We've been working tirelessly to get to this day. And it is so amazing to have you all with us to see the first vision of Strada. So I actually want to bring my brother Michael back, as well as our colleague and director of engineering, Austin Case.
All right, Austin.
All right.
The slide says product demo.
And I think I have to do it.
I think we have to do it
All
now.
right. That
it's
sounds
been
like
a long
plan.
time. What did it take to get here?
7 months, I guess. And I think every day of the 7 months.
Yes, it sure did.
Yeah, but I'm just so excited to show you guys, the first look at Strada. And I think what excites me the most about showing you Strada is that, when we talk about this creative companion, AI as a creative companion, like, what does that mean? And now we get to show you. And I was reflecting on an example of like how when new technologies are introduced into our lives, we don't really know what they mean. The first time I heard of Dolby Atmos, right, you don't really know what it is until I watched Ford vs. Ferrari in a theater of Dolby Atmos. And I felt what Dolby Atmos meant, right? And so today we get to show you, and as we invite you to join our private beta, you get to feel what an AI creative companion looks like for you, for a creator, for a storyteller. And that's what I'm most excited about.
And our pledge to the community is to make sure that we are totally considerate and respectful of that process. Our engineering team is not doing this in the dark. We shoot and edit and record and transcode with the team to make sure that we're in lockstep with the way people know to get it done.
I think it's one of the most unique parts of Strada is we are a group of creators and engineers, and they're not separate teams. At a lot of companies, these are separate departments. And at Strada, I think even as we grow, our aim is just to keep them as close together as possible.
Well, to prove that out, we're gonna do something a little crazy.
Yep.
And I want to invite our crew to come out on stage and join us. And
We're doing
get
this
ready.
live?
We're gonna do this.
Okay.
We're gonna do this. Now, if you know me, I don't like pre-baking things because I think it's cheap and easy. When I was a kid, I used to watch this show, this is long before the Food Network, I used to watch the show The Frugal Gourmet. And I would watch this show, and I was a little kid, and I'd see him do all this amazing stuff. And then like 2 minutes before the end, he'd pull out like a whole turducken, and it would be like this. And I was like, Dad, you can make that in like 2 minutes. He's like, no. They made that like 6 hours earlier, and it's just showing you what the result. It's like, no. He came out, and it was like raw chicken, and none of that was built. He's like, no. They're just doing it they're not showing you that part, and they're kind of cheating a little bit. And I was like, oh. And I felt kind of cheated that it wasn't that easy, that they could make it look perfect when no one's watching. When I do product demos, I always like to take the risk of actually demonstrating it as it would be used. And this is what one of my mentors, Leon Silverman, calls doing trapeze without a net. And so we're gonna actually shoot a take in front of you and start exploring how this would change your workflow, and you don't have to guess. And I'm not just gonna show you slides. We're gonna show the product, and the product is in the cloud. This isn't a local version of it. This is a working product in the cloud. So with that, it looks like our crew is ready to go. So let's roll camera and roll sound.
Scene one, take one, common mark.
And action.
Hi.
Hi, I'm here to pick up your Valentine's Day package.
Oh yeah, it's right there. Don't move.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Here you go.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, there's a balloon as well.
How am I supposed to fit this in my car?
Oh, you can just put him on your front seat and just make sure he has his seatbelt on because I don't want anything to happen to Conan, right?
Right, yes, we'll make sure Conan is safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's gonna fit.
Barely. Feeling really stupid about that smart car right
And
now.
cut. Okay. Conan, that's the real size. That's his name because that's the real size of the bear. So let's level set with what we just did. So what we just did is we shot A and B cameras. So we're using Panavision DXL2s, and we've got A and B cameras. They're time code jammed to each other. Pretty typical way of working. But over in the corner here, we got Fletcher, and Fletcher's recording audio separately. Most people know this is called dual system sound. And what that means is audio and video are recorded independently. A lot of people work this way. The problem with this way is now you have a video asset for A camera, a separate video asset for B camera, and then a separate audio asset that contains additional audio channels for your sound. And so what that means is these have to get transferred, they need to get put together, someone has to assign those to each other, then in order for you to view it, they have to render it out to a new version, duplicating the asset, and then deliver that. So that has been something we've been doing for the better part of a century. And so this is where our first set of AI analytics can start to change the way we work. So what we're gonna do now is go over to Austin's computer, and we're gonna take a look at Strada, and we are literally starting from scratch.
From scratch. All right, so what you're looking at now is a blank Strada, what you might see if you join our private beta. We haven't connected anything. So the first thing you'll notice is that you don't actually upload media to Strada. Strada actually connects to your existing media. And when we talk about like workflow being ligaments, what we mean is like also not disrupting your existing process, right? Because if you use a new tool, a new cloud tool, the way to use it is you have to download media from somewhere else and then upload to that tool. That's really disruptive, and it's really hard to just try tools inside of your workflow. So what it means is to try Strada on a project, there's really no harm, right? Because you can just connect it to your existing media, you can try out its features and benefits, and you can see if it works for you. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add media. You can see here it pops up this modal. I have Dropbox, Frameout, and Google Cloud as options, and we'll be adding more over time. And so here I'm going to start with Frame.io, and it'll take me to Frame.io. And this is super simple, like what you would be used to logging into any application with, your simple username and password. I'll hit allow. And when it takes me back to Strada, here once Frame.io finishes loading, what you'll see is that Strada does not by default have access to all your media. So you don't have to think like, oh, I'm connecting Strada and all my media is going to be in Strada. No, you actually choose which folders you want Strada to have viewable. So here I'm going to select this Strada and I'm going to hit allow access. And you'll see really quickly on the side here, now it's connected as a drive. I hit Frame.io Strada, and now I can navigate my folder structure that's actually in Frame.io. And here is the take that if I go into ACAM, that we just shot, right? And I can hit play as you'd expect. Boom. Okay. So now what I'm going to show you is what we call bins. And bins are just like you would think of in a nonlinear editor. And I think the important thing about bins for an editor or somebody who works in an NLE is that they don't actually disrupt your file structure, right? As an editor, you can like play with your bins and organize your media how you want, but it doesn't necessarily disrupt the file structure because there's many other teams dependent on that file structure. And that's what helps with different types of handoffs between different parts of the process is that file structure that you all use. And so when I create a bin here, this is a Strada bin, so this is not going to be in any of your cloud. I'm just going to call this demo. I'm going to create it here, and immediately I can add this to my demo bin, and then I'm going to go to Bcam. I'm also going to add this to my demo bin, and then if I go to that bin, you can see they're both there.
So what we're seeing right here is two video files that are still in Frame.io. We have not moved the files, right? They're in place. We are not like a lot of clouds that require to move your asset to their cloud. This is how a lot of clouds are built. It's flawed logic. I understand why they did it that way, but it's wrong. And what we need to be able to do is allow people to leave the files where they are and bring the database or the location or the tool to the assets where they live. You've already invested in a cloud. You shouldn't need to buy another cloud just to have another function in a new tool, right? This is a change from the way most of these things are developed. So Frame.io's assets here are still in place. We haven't moved them. We're just manipulating where they live and can be interacted with in the Strada tool.
Exactly. And there's one problem. If I hit play, I can't hear this file. So our audio file is actually uploaded to Dropbox. That's where we put it. And so normally in tools, this would be a problem. And so here what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go back to my little plus button. Here it'll pop up Dropbox. I'll zoom back out. And once Dropbox loads, and there we go. And this is actually our Strada Dropbox. So you can see we have our job candidates folder. And I don't want Strada to have access to that, so I just don't have to check it. But I do have this beta launch folder that we've set up for this. I'll hit allow access, and here I can start navigating beta launch, and here's that WAV file that we just shot. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add this to the demo as well. And when I go over to that demo, here we are. We have our audio, our ACAM, and our Bcam. If I just take a second, you're viewing these files are not located in the same place. Like this file is stored off of Dropbox, and I can hit play, and I can hear it, and then I can click on these videos and watch it. But I'm gonna show you something really special, and it's something we came up with, and it's called Stacks. And this is a virtual file that allows you to actually sync audio and video in the cloud without rendering. And so I think this is the first daily that you're ever gonna get with dual system audio that you're gonna get to watch in real time. And watch how simple it is. I just take this, add to stack, and when I go over here and I turn these on, boom, I can scrub to the middle of the take here.
Hi, I'm here to pick up your Valentine's Day package.
Oh, yeah. It's right there. Don't move.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Here you go.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait, there's a balloon as well.
How am I supposed to fit this in my car?
Oh, you can just put him on your front seat and just make sure he has his seatbelt on because I don't want anything to happen to Conan, right?
Right. Yes, we'll make sure Conan is safe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's gonna fit.
All right, let's let that sink in for a second, people, right? Do we get what happened just there? Dropbox and Frame.io are literally in time and space thousands of miles apart from each other. These assets are thousands of miles apart. There's no fast background rendering in this process. They literally are independent assets that can now be isolated and put together in a virtual stack and shared and now seen and viewed. And so this is just the very beginning of automating this whole process. It's taken us, I mean, it hasn't been done before. And this is not a tool or a process. This idea of syncing dailies manually is not something anybody looks forward to. So let's be honest, right? It's a necessary evil before we can get to the good stuff, right? And so let's let the creative people or the post supervisors or the VFX supervisors or the show, whoever needs to see and is allowed to see their assets, you still control who can see it, but you don't have to wait for that process to be governed by, well, we can't send it out MOS. Of course you can't. But now you don't have to wait for that either. So this is a big, big breakthrough. And the, if audio is delivered in one cloud and video is delivered in another cloud, that's fine. And we should also point out, Austin, let's just say a lot of people have Dropboxes or Box or Google Drive or Frame.io accounts.
Yeah.
Can I only connect one of those to Strada?
No, you can connect as many as you want.
So how would that sort of work out in the minds of people that are in multiple accounts of the same cloud?
Honestly, you just invite them to Strada. This is how easy it is, right? I don't even know if you're invited to this account, right? And I'll invite you, Michael@strada.tech, and you are actually going to get an email right now. Invite one user, boom, there you go.
And then, so it's that easy. And we wanted to make this super simple because a lot of people do have ways to connect clouds in the background, but you need an IT infrastructure and 40 emails to get it done, when it should be able to be done with a fingerprint, right? And productions that want to take control of their world shouldn't need to involve the entire studio in order to get this done. So this is really important to us. Okay, so we've been able to sync sound, we've connected a few clouds, but I want to keep stressing and keep exploring what this product can do.
That sounds good.
So we're going to get ready for our second take. So crew, let's get ready for take 2 here. All right, let's roll cameras.
Scene 2, take 1, comment mark.
And action.
Bonjour madame.
Bonjour.
Je suis là pour récupérer votre colis de Saint-Valentin.
Ne bougez pas, c'est juste ici. Alors, voilà. Les roses, c'est pour Antoine.
D'accord, les roses pour Antoine, c'est noté.
Ah, et le champagne. Oh, j'aimerais bien tout boire, hein. Ouh, ce serait rigolo, non? Alors, le champagne, c'est pour Olivier.
Et le champagne pour Olivier.
Voilà, les roses
Pour Antoine. Et le champagne pour Olivier. D'accord, ok. Non mais ça va pas celle-là.
Bonne
Et
Saint-Valentin.
puis le chocolat, oui madame, vous aussi, hein. Le chocolat pour Francis, Antoine, Olivier, n'importe quoi.
All right. I didn't expect that. Now we have a problem here because what that sounded like French to me, wasn't really sure. This was not something we were planning on. And as we think about problems like that, this is the type of thing, especially in nonfiction, it will grind the workflow to a halt. Because now something really problematic happens. There's a lot of companies that think that the place to solve a problem like this with transcription and translation is the cutting room. Guess what? The cutting room doesn't want your transcription problems. Don't give it to them. But a lot of tools are focusing, this is where this actually gets done. Now, there is value of transcription in a cutting room, but it shouldn't be the depot with which to get it. So Austin, let's take a look here and see what we can do in the Strada space with this.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna go into my ACAM folder here. I have that take ready here. I'll add this to demo. So I'll go over here to BCAM. Here's that take that we just shot. I'm going to add this to my demo like I did previously, and then I'm going to go to sound and go to beta launch here. Boom, there's take 2. And I am actually going to, up in the upper right here, you'll see this is our properties transcription and workflow settings panel. And so I'm actually going to navigate over here to transcription, and you'll see it hasn't been generated yet, but it's as simple as clicking the generate transcript at the bottom, and it'll automatically start generating. And so I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to add this to our demo as well, and then go over to our demo bin. There's my clips. And so I'm going to click on the audio, and I'm going to add this and start making my stacks like I did before. And let's see here. And my transcription should be ready to go for me. Transcription, boom, there we are. If you see the transcription, it is in English, and I'm pretty sure we were hearing French over there.
Let's give it a shot.
Alrighty, so I'll scrub here to the action, and I'll hit play.
Bonjour madame.
Bonjour.
Je suis là pour récupérer votre colis de Saint-Valentin.
Ne bougez pas, c'est juste ici. Alors, voilà. Les roses, c'est pour Antoine.
D'accord, les roses pour Antoine, c'est noté.
Ah, et le champagne? Oh, j'aimerais bien tout boire, hein. Ouh, ce serait rigolo, non? Alors, le champagne, c'est pour Olivier.
Et le champagne pour Olivier?
Voilà, les roses.
Pour Antoine. Et le champagne pour Olivier. D'accord, ok. Non mais ça va pas celle-là.
Bonne
Et
Saint-Valentin!
puis le chocolat, oui madame, vous aussi, hein. Le chocolat pour Francis, Antoine, Olivier, n'importe quoi.
That is the fastest translation you've ever seen. So the technology here, you see, it's starting to concatenate, right? Because we're taking now the different clouds, we're keeping those together. Now we're adding the sync of A and B camera and then the sound, and now we're able to translate and transcode. So the AI models that are different in Strada are able to concatenate on top of each other. Where a lot of people say we make a transcription tool. Someone will make an audio syncing tool. Someone will make a tool that does a lot of things. But that's not workflow. Remember, people, it's the joints. It's the connective tissue. If you subscribe to 50 different AI tools that do this, you have 50 subscriptions, 50 billing cycles, 50 names, 50 passwords, 50 security audits, some of you, right? And all of that is going to gum up your workflow. But if you leave the assets in place and allow a front end to come in and access those assets, now you can start stacking the models and get it to actually flow automatically. So now we've got all that working. Plus, if you really think deep about this, what you're seeing here, so Austin can actually click on a word and it'll bring the playhead to that word. So imagine this being, a 5-minute take or a 50-minute interview or a lecture or a sermon or a podcast. And now as you click on it, it will drive the timeline there. Now think about this. You're seeing an image appear when he's clicking that word, but the video has no audio. So the Strada Stacks metadata layering has a relationship so that the sound is driving the video, right? The video, not only is it in a different cloud, it has no sound attached to it, but you don't have to care about that, right? We've associated the frames, the actual picture, with an audio track that's independent, and you don't have to actually think about it that way. That's the power of this virtual cloud, right? It's different, it's new, and this is bleeding edge stuff. And I hope everybody can understand the separation between everything Strada does is new because they're like dripping wet new. I understand that, but the tech we have here is dripping wet new for anybody. And it needs subject matter expertise to figure out how to configure it so that we can do this. Otherwise, we're all going to be subscribing to 50 different translation products and 50 different transcoding products and 50 different cloud service products, and that's not going to be the future we want. And we are close to that actually happening. And we're actually trying to provide an alternative. So we've been able to show all of that. We got our transcription done and all that. So what we want to do is we want to actually show this in action. And so if we could go here, we took the Strada program out and we did our first field test with the transcription project. So we're going to take a look here at our first translation demo.
ایمانون said Tom Malian. Yes, sir, I'm dry cleaning the Hazari Naru.
Tom is an immigrant who came here from Armenia. The best way to tell a story that's personal and intimate to him was to be able to feature him speaking in Armenian.
Siratim, Yavinzi Uzetsan were actually et mechanu to Karavorem.
With this project, we have English and Armenian at the same time within this interview.
Like they like to see me, my brother, my sister, it just irar heta.
The real revolution with Strada is that I can just click on the clip I want. It's already synced with my audio. I can read the translation that's just automatically done. Then I can share that with my producer and I didn't have to render, upload, export, anything.
To have something synced, transcribed, and translated, that's a lot of steps. The fact that I can scroll down, click on any of the lines, and it immediately shows me the transcription and the translation, it really feels like the intention is to improve the creative process.
There is multiple ways to share the transcript. You can export it as a document, burn it in, and send it to a review platform, or you can export the SRT and bring it into your NLE.
آرچی موتیویشن اتیابور یس uzman کارگانا موتارنه نوکنم.
With streaming, there has been more footage from all over the world, which comes in different languages.
Having tools that allow us to collaborate efficiently and effectively as creatives is what workflow is all about. All this complexity being simplified to just a beautiful platform like Strada is incredible.
All right. So, I think it's time to try one more and see what we can squeeze out of this AI stuff. So we're gonna get ready for our last take here. So let's roll sound and roll camera.
Scene 3, take 1, common mark.
And action.
Hi, I'm here to pick up your Valentine's Day package.
Oh, it's right there.
Okay.
This is Mr. and this is Tom's.
All right, and this is for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, of course. Come on, what's more romantic than a 65-million-year-old extant lizard?
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I'll tell you who's about to be extinct. She's out of her mind.
All right. So what we have kind of interesting is if I think back, I just saw T-Rex, but the take before that, I saw roses and champagne, and the take before that, I saw this giant oversized teddy bear holding a heart-shaped box. So one of the problems with the editorial process is something really interesting. And yeah, we are wrapped, crew. Let's give the crew, thank you. That's a wrap. One of the challenges with the cutting room is this constant process of hunting and pecking, right? And sometimes the relationship between a director and an editor can be based on how fast an editor can find what the director is requiring to be found, right? And this is a troubling thing because as Pete mentioned at the beginning, we don't actually want to have to think in scene and take. We want to describe the location, right? Or the actor or the place or the object. And we don't want to be like, oh, that's scene 12. Okay, where's scene 12? We have to find that. Or the language that's said in there. We just did all this transcription, and that's not only for nonfiction content, because if you transcribe all the content in narrative, now you can search anything. Language is the deepest and fastest way to search anything. If you know what they say, it'll just bring you up there. And that's really powerful for fiction content as well. So Austin, let's go to the first take here.
Okay.
And let's start with the first take, because I want to go back to the first take, and we're going to go up there, and let's just show a B camera here. So what you could do in Strada, you can always hide and unhide your multicams if you do that. And, you know, it's really interesting here because I wish there was a way that we could find what's happening inside these takes and make them metadata rich and easy to find. So Austin, what do you got for us?
All right, so if you see here in our analysis tab, we can see 30 items.
What you're looking at for the first time here is a visual representation of metadata in a way that's creatively useful, creatively friendly, because it just creates a timeline of all the actions. In fact, it's not just tagging the asset, it's tagging the range in which it takes place inside the asset.
And if we look at it, we can see here we have a teddy bear. I remember a teddy bear.
So think about how you could take this further along. A director often says, when the actor turns and says this line, let's say, get a job, I want a lineup takes 1 through 6, and I want to see get a job every single time. You know how long it takes? It takes an editor about 8 minutes to do all that so that you could just watch and pick the best 1 or 2 and debate which one is the right one. But in Strada, you could type get a job because we have the analytics of the phrase and just line them all up. And then just say, that's the fast, it's gonna be instant. Or you could know the product or the location they're at or the prop that they're holding and say, show me this. You see, if he clicks on this and goes over the teddy bear, and then if you follow that to the right, that's what says teddy bear. And then we look at the picture, it knows it because it's gonna detect that. And so this is a representation of where we start with AI analytics inside of media and entertainment application. Now let's go to the second take here. Let's see what we got. So we get a different timeline here.
We'll turn off ACAM again so that we don't have that.
Well, let's look at type. We see like flowers and...
Oh yeah, and bottle and yeah.
So we look at...
potted plant.
Yeah, so we go to like the bottle and stuff like that. It'll take us right when she does that. Now, what's really interesting too is if you actually kind of start to see here, you actually see patterns in the chaos. Because for those of you that are very, very right-brained, you'll start to see visual cues inside these little Morse code dots. And we'll learn to look at them because you can actually see what is constant and what is coming in and out of frame. Let's look at the dinosaur.
All right, we'll go to the dinosaur clip here, and there's Dino.
Yeah. And so if you look at this take, so like kind of squint your eyes, seriously, squint your eyes a tiny bit and look at the blue. What you'll see is there's like two halves of this take, right? You can instantly see there's areas of interest at the beginning and there's separate areas of interest at the end. You kind of see there's like two halves. There's more action up front, less action in the back. And this just becomes a new way to start to visualize how things are happening. Imagine if you're doing things like a lot of people do aerial photography. When you do aerial photography, you run these long clips, but then it's an editor has to scrub and scrub and scrub, because finding the bridge is somewhere in a 30 or 40 minute helicopter shot. Now we can just do that. Just show me all of that. And if you do the bridge 3 times, just line those up. Make that stuff faster. This isn't about taking away people's jobs. It's about letting the cutting room cut more, right? And it's about being able to accelerate that director's ability. And they can go and look at this stuff. Producers, VFX supervisors, post-soups, you could be looking at the media. You don't need to request it anymore. You can just find it. And you just search for it yourself using the best analytics possible, because we get such an edge with this stuff. Now, this is all kind of a unilateral wide view of analytics, because what we had, the AI models we're using here, we had them tuned to just find any object, but it also can find emotions, it can find locations. The idea is that you're not going to set this up to just record and tag everything. You tune it to what you want it to find, because you know what you're looking for. If you're a photographer, you know if I'm looking for bride and groom and Grandpa Joe, then it can start finding those things. If you're a lawyer, you're going to do the logo evaluation, right? And you can just start searching for logos, and it's only going to have to find logos for that person's needs, right? If you're looking for a specific character, or if you're looking for a specific location, you can tell it to do that. If it's just faces, once you name a face, just like in your phone is able to now analyze people's faces, locations, pets, right? And when you find that, it's fast. But we don't have that in the professional world. That's unacceptable. This is which would radically help what we're trying to do in our storytelling process. And so we want the technology that's available at the consumer level, but we want to apply it to our teams around the world. So think about taking this type of AI and tuning it to exactly the stuff you're looking for. That's where this actually goes. This is really just the tip of the iceberg, and this is extremely, very, very, very advanced new types of stuff. So we're able to show these, in this case, we're able to deduce and discover these different analytics and represent this kind of, this story here to kind of just show a taste of what is possible now. And what we're looking for are people that are brave, willing to bleed, and willing to push as an early adopter to see how we can maneuver this into a space that can go from a fad to a trend to a standard rapidly and really adopt things in a whole new way. So to take one more look, what we're going to do is we'll come back here and we're going to watch one more video. We were able to take Strada on a commercial shoot and start to use it for the first time. And so we're going to take a look here at Strada in action.
Today we're shooting this commercial. It's a little scene and we're using Strada to help us with the workflow. We're always shooting with 2 cameras. With the Strada technology, we will be able to see it directly after shooting that take. It's available instantaneously.
So where are you from?
New York.
You must be a big city girl then, huh?
No, I lived upstate.
So the challenging thing on sets is to be able to convey to your actors what you want, asking your actors to go back to Video Village and show them the take when they're in the middle of maybe a very emotional scene. I love the way that with Strada, I can take my iPad and go to them and show what it looks like.
When Flo came over and showed us the shots, I was like, wow, I can actually see if I'm doing something that I wouldn't like to do. It really helped me to see and hear what was going on in that scene.
Like movies?
Not really.
I think it's important for actors to have a sense of how they're perceived, because there's a different feeling from how you're perceived through the camera. So as a director, it's great to be able to show them exactly how it conveys through the lens, and then they can course correct accordingly without words.
Not having to break your flow and your mode, you can just have everything come right to you, get that note, and go right back to work. It made the whole process more streamlined.
For continuity, I was able to go back to the moment of the take I needed to check for the next shot.
One tropical blue Hawaiian with extra pineapple.
Oh, let me guess. You don't like big, beautiful, colorful drinks too?
Because Strada is assembling everything on set, I don't need to wait. At the end of the day, everything is already in the cloud. Through Strada, my editor has access to everything.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Collaboration is what this is all about, and we need the right tools to be able to collaborate. I want the whole crew to have access to the same thing, so we are able to tell the same story. And cut.
Where are you from?
New York.
Oh, I love New York. You must love big city life.
No, I lived upstate, the countryside. I actually hate the city.
Oh, you must be a big lover of the outdoors then.
Not really. I prefer more stimulating forms of entertainment.
Like movies? I love the movies. You must love the movies too.
Not really. I mostly watch the news.
Like you keep up with current events and stuff?
Not really. The current events of this world are depressing.
All right, so you don't like the city, you don't like the outdoors, you don't like the movies, and you don't like current events. So what do you like?
Okay, you two, I have your drinks, one whiskey and one tropical blue Hawaiian with extra pineapple.
Let me guess, you don't like delicious fruity beverages either.
What I like are people who aren't afraid to be themselves. Cheers.
Cheers. That's good. Wow. You want to try it?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, everybody, it's been amazing, an amazing day together. Thank you so much for everyone online watching. Thank you so much for everybody who came in person. We want to say a special thanks to all of our partners. We couldn't do this without you. For those of you that live in the Valley of Los Angeles, please get your dry cleaning done with Tom. You love him, you know it, and he's great for that. And then we also just want to thank all of our crew. The crew that has been helping us for so long to get this off the ground is just remarkable and so important to us. We're so thankful for everybody's blood, sweat, and tears to make this all real. With that, we wish you all well. Stay tuned. Follow us on social media. Let's keep in touch. We'll see you in the cloud. Bye, everyone.